listening to Philosophy Think Tank, hosted on CapricornRadio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Paul Pantone, scientist, inventor, philanthropist. Paul Pantone has been an American inventor for over 20 years and has been the voice of GEET International. GEET stands for Global Environmental Energy Technology. He created the first working GEET engine, GEET fuel processor, and has been a courageous advocate of fuel efficiency for many, many years. Mr. Pantone, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. As a matter of fact, we're in a classroom today, and we're taking a short break from the class just to do the show.
Oh, that's wonderful. Mr. Pantone, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 62 years old, and I've been inventing since I was 5, 6 years old. I wake up in the morning and I remember my dreams, so it saves a lot of time on building prototypes, because in your dreams you can build things over and over and over, and you finally get it right. So when you wake up, you know how to build it. I've got dreams from the time I was 5, 6 years old of things I've invented that I haven't even had the time to build yet. So pick the field, I have an invention in it. I've got about 650 inventions. The most well-known, of course, is GEET. And we've been able to run engines on anything we put in the fuel tank, from plastic, vaporized lawn clippings, gasoline, diesel, kerosene, crude oil, paint thinner. We've had some people tinkle in the tank.
So water, urine, Coca-Cola, waste oil, it doesn't matter. Anything you throw in there.
You got it.
Amazing.
It's just knowing how to process it so it turns into a vapor. But the best part for me was back in 1983, the first big GEET I built, we took it down to a smog shop, and when we hooked it up at the smog shop, it showed 0 hydrocarbon, 0 carbon monoxide, 0 carbon dioxide, and 21.1% oxygen. We were producing more clean air out the tailpipe than there was in the shop.
That is the most extraordinary thing I have ever heard.
It's right on our website. It's right there on the bottom right-hand side. You can click the video and watch it. A lot of people that were there stood there shaking their head. We took the sniffer out of the exhaust pipe, and the air coming off the floor in the shop actually had more pollution in it than the exhaust coming out of our engine.
It is the most amazing thing. You have something that is not only efficient, but also something that's actually positive for the environment, actually generating oxygen for the environment. This is incredible. Could you take us through the process of your diagram here I'm actually looking at the reactor itself. Could you just give us like a basic overview of what takes place with the GEET mechanism?
Well, to begin with, we have in the picture there shows a bubbler, where you pull a vacuum on that, which is caused by the engine. The piston being pulled down causes vacuum. That causes things to boil. The vapor, because things will boil at a lower temperature in a vacuum. So gasoline will start boiling at 90 degrees in a vacuum. You start boiling that vapor, you pull the vapor off it, and you feed it up the center of the exhaust pipe in a different tube with an accelerator rod in there. So you're speeding up the molecules to the maximum speed you can during the heat exchange process. That breaks it down atomically so that you're getting a transmutation of elements. Once it goes through that, it gets mixed with fresh air, goes into the intake of the engine, and is burned, and then comes out the tailpipe. And in many cases, we have ice forming on the tailpipe.
Incredible.
A miniature refinery.
A miniature refinery. And that's where the magic happens, in that reaction chamber there, where you have a tube nested inside another tube, where you have what looks to be the exhaust flowing in one direction and the fuel flowing in the opposite direction. There's some kind of a plasma reaction that's taking place there. Is that right?
That's correct. It's all being done with natural phenomenon, and it's the only plasma generator I know of in the world that is self-generating. We don't need to have outside electrical fields. It creates its own. So as the unit is running, it is pulling electrons from as far as 60 feet or further into the reaction to cause a plasma field. Now, the easiest way to explain that is everything on the atomic chart has an atomic mass weight. Sulfur has a mass weight of 32 particles, and that's what makes it sulfur. When you put it through a vacuum chamber with a heat exchanger into a plasma state, it turns into 32 particles of hydrogen. You're breaking it down atomically to its lightest possible element.
And in so doing, you're creating a superfuel.
Oh, yes. Very efficient.
And the fuel that you're producing is so efficient and so productive that it can multiply the miles per gallon 200%?
Well, the laws in the United States, because of the 1951 National Security Act, say we're not allowed to get that high. So we can only publicly talk about a 50% improvement without causing problems. We don't want to violate national security.
Now, you did provide me with the Armed Services Patent Advisory Board, the ASPAB, the Patent Security Category Review List. Would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, for many years I wasn't even aware of that, so I was out getting a lot better than double and triple my mileage because I wasn't aware that I was breaking any law, and nobody would tell me about it. They just kept saying, we're not interested, we don't want to be involved. I said, why? Well, we can't. Well, it wasn't that they couldn't. They were afraid to become involved because we were violating a federal issue here. And I said, well, this isn't making sense to me. I mean, people can run around on veggie oil, and if you're telling me that this law applies, how come they can use veggie oil and do other things? Well, because those are temporarily government approved, subject to change at any time. But if you're using anything other than approved fuel, then you have to look back at the law that says you can't enter a public highway or publicly paid for highway unless the fuel you're using has had road tax paid on it prior to entering the roadway. It also says if you're getting too good of mileage, then you become a threat to national security.
It's amazing that those elites have actually legislated their own protection from humanitarian inventors like yourself who protect the environment from pollution. It's incredible.
Well, it broke my heart because in 1983, when I saw zero pollution, I was dancing around that shop. I mean, I was so elated. I just thought, man, this is going to help all of mankind. If all I make is a penny for every piece of equipment on the planet, I wouldn't be able to spend all the money. I don't need to make a lot of money on this. Every single piece of equipment, a boiler, a furnace, your stove, everything could be double to triple the efficiency. Do you know how many people that would put to work? So I started out calling Greenpeace, Sierra Club, all these great organizations. I remember as a kid carrying ticket signs for them. We want to clean up this planet. So I start calling them up, and they're going, we're not interested. And one after another, they kept saying, we're not interested. Finally, a few of them had the courage to tell me, hey, you dummy, solutions put us out of business. Donations are what we need. And I'm sitting there with egg on my face going, wait a minute, you really don't want to help mankind? No. You think that's going to buy my wife a new fur next year or send my kids to college? No. We want donations, not solutions. The battle I have fought.
Yes, it has, and you fought it courageously. Would you like to talk about some of the battles that you fought with in colleges and universities and with the oil industry?
Well, with the oil industry, they were all real nice to me at first. Chevron used to send me samples of oil. Texaco did. Several of the other oil companies did, and private people did all the time. If I wanted crude oil, all I would do is pick up the phone and say, hey, can I get a couple gallons of crude oil a day? Sure, what do you need? And they'd send it to me. Until they saw that video that's up on my website. When they saw that we could have zero pollution, and if we were running on 80% salt water with 20% crude oil, we could get 90 times the mileage. And all of a sudden, I got cut off. Nobody would give me crude oil again.
Just like that. So they recognized the danger, and they just said, all right, we got to get rid of it. We got to just disconnect our relationship with this individual.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had similar treatment. You had similar kind of treatment from colleges and universities when you went to show them your device?
Oh, well, we went to BYU, and they let us into the nuclear lab. We did 3 days of testing, and they said, man, this is just as phenomenal as cold fusion. And I looked kind of puzzled, and I said, what are you talking about? I thought cold fusion didn't work. And they smiled and said, no. Upstairs, when you walk out of this room, cold fusion doesn't work. But down here in this laboratory, we know it works. I don't understand. I said, well, the guy who writes our paycheck said it doesn't work. And I got the same thing when I went back to the college in Cedarville, Ohio, Baptist College. We went to different colleges, and we got the same thing, one after another. Nobody wanted us back on campus a second time, and a lot of them would say, we can't even have you on campus because if it's anti-government and getting good mileage and zero pollution is anti-government, so we can't have you on campus.
This is amazing. Here you are trying to provide an unbelievable, invaluable service to mankind, and you meet with this kind of behavior and this kind of treatment. It staggers the imagination.
Well, I had a whole bunch of letters from scientists that came in late 1990s that saw what we were doing. My wife and I toured the United States to show people, here it is, I got it on my Suburban. I'm getting 45 miles a gallon. I've got it on all these other engines. We're putting pickle juice, Mountain Dew, sugar in the gas tank. I mean, they run. What more proof do you need? And all the scientists started writing the letters one after another, and when we posted them on the internet, the scientists would call back and say, hey, we're getting pressure. Get my letter off your website. What? If you don't get your letters pulled off, we're not going to be able to teach next year. So when the government decides to threaten people, they do it in different ways.
Unbelievable. Have you been personally threatened by the government?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Now, were these guys like dressed in suits coming, knocking at your front door kind of stuff, or was it letters? I mean...
No, in Utah was the worst one. The judge had me arrested in the courtroom for being delusional. He said if it wasn't in a science book, it couldn't be real. So they put me in a mental hospital for 3.5 years where they drilled out all my teeth and refused to give me surgery when I needed it on my foot. So right now I have a real bad limp when I walk because of a broken foot. But I have no teeth either. And the deal was, after they drilled out all my teeth, was if I just signed my patent over to them and make a public statement that it didn't work, they would put me out of my misery. And I decided I really liked my misery a lot more. So after 2.5 years, that the judge illegally held me because state law said they could not hold me more than 18 months. And that's in the court record. It was against the law for them to hold me. They still held me. Finally, they released me saying I'm totally incompetent. Of course, that means I can't go back and sue them, which is the only reason they said I was incompetent, and that's fine. But I'm still teaching people from all over the world how to make them, how to go home and do them yourself, and I teach a whole bunch of other things.
And that's right. You're giving courses right now, as a matter of fact, on your technology, yes?
Well, it goes way beyond my technology, but we teach science here, plasma physics, and people who want to come in and spend the week, they get to learn a lot more than just GEET. We open their eyes to what the Bermuda Triangle is and a whole bunch of other things in science. There are questions in people's minds that they can't find answers to. I have 181 discoveries of my own, which are copyrighted, and occasionally people come in and make a copy of it, put it on the internet, and claim they invented it, and one after another they get busted. Not by me.
And you also have I understand you have an additional 50 that are in the process of being copyrighted. So
A lot more.
A lot more. Okay, very good. Now, you've been gracious enough to provide people with detailed diagrams of your machine. I mean, it's like you've given your gift away in a philanthropic way. So, I mean, anyone can look at this. Obviously, they have to make it themselves. Would they need to, like, pay you a royalty or some kind of a fee if they actually did produce your device because it's copyrighted?
Well, I gave away the rights in 1999 so that anyone who wanted to build a GEET unit for themselves for their own personal use, not for commercialization, could build one unit. And if they appreciated the donation of being able to build one unit, they could actually make a donation, and I would say thank you for it. But it's funny, after millions of people downloaded those free plans, I only got like 2 or 3 donations worldwide.
That's it.
So I'm really not thrilled about giving away too much more information because there was no appreciation there. In 12 years, only 2 donations came in, one for $5 and one for $100. In 12 years.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah. What I got, though, were thousands upon thousands of complaints that I didn't give them the best model. And I gave you the worst model I ever built. It barely works. If you want to come to school, fine. Make arrangements. Go to my website. Sign up. Come to school. I'll teach you how to make it. But you're still not going to be able to commercialize it.
I see. So what you did is you provided a primitive model that does work, but you have subsequent additions that are far more efficient and do a lot more.
Okay. Yep. You got it.
You know, there was one question that I wanted to ask you, and I guess this is more of a technical question. Would increasing the length of the reaction chamber, would that increase the efficiency?
No.
No. Okay.
Like I said, there's 181 discoveries that are not found in science books. You have to know the exact length for the fuel you're using to make it efficient.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a major secret then.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Now, I know that you, in the very beginning of our conversation, you mentioned the use of your unconscious mind in sleep. What was your inspiration for GEET? Can you talk about that?
Well, when I was 5, 6 years old, I knew I was going to be building an engine that would run on water. So I started working on that years later. I also knew I was going to build a magnetic motor and a lot of other things. And I didn't bother to build them until I was older and had money to do it. And then I started building things. And when I built the first GEET, it wasn't to run it on crude oil or paint or clean up the world problem. It was to run an engine on water. So I found out it was illegal. So I had to take it off my car.
Mm. Now, this is something that you mentioned in another interview that I saw you with, I think it was Adam Abrams or Adam Abraham. Is that right? And you spoke with him, and that was an excellent interview, and I'm so happy that he was able to put that out there. But one of the things that you mentioned in that video was that there was a man by the name of Stanley Myers who invented a water-powered car, and you, like him, also were able to achieve this. Unfortunately, Stanley Myers met with an unfortunate end. Now, you must have been concerned upon finding out what happened to Stanley Myers. I mean, what did you do? I mean, when you found out what happened to him, I mean, did you take steps to make sure that this wasn't going to happen to yourself from these elites that want to, frustrate that awesome discovery?
No, he came out with his much after I did. Mine was in 1983, and when I first came out with my water unit, I showed my father that, and my father immediately demanded that I give him the keys to the house, the garage, and the gate, and get off his property and not call back.
Oh, my God.
He was terrified. He said, son, I disown you as of now. If you've got a car that runs on water, I cannot even talk to you again. Give me my keys and get off my property. I lost several friends that week because when they heard what I was doing, they said, they're going to kill you. They're going to come after you. So I decided not to market or show or even drive ever again on water, take it off the car, dispose of the unit, and use that as my ace in the hole. If anything ever happens to me or my family, those plans are going to be released to mankind for free on over 500 websites worldwide.
So they would serve absolutely no purpose to do you harm of any kind, because that data will get into the world in that day or that second. So, yeah, good for you, man. Way to go to protect yourself. Unfortunately, Stanley Myers wasn't as shrewd as you were about how these people operate.
Well, I respect Stanley very much there. He felt that God was going to protect him. Well, you've got to protect yourself a little in here. You can't just dump it all in God's lap. God can give you great ideas. So what do you do with them? Yeah. And if you think you're bulletproof, watch out where you're walking.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. Now, I was talking about this with some colleagues, and they're very interested in purchasing your device for their own vehicles. But there was a concern that it might have an adverse effect upon the way in the performance of the automobile. Could you talk about that at all? In other words, if somebody had like a Corvette or a Mustang or something like that, which is a high-performance car, would this do damage to that kind of performance or no?
No. It's not water injection. If you inject water into there, that'll embrittle the engine. The engine will get harder. When our government was using water injection on the fighter plane so we could escape from the Red Baron, the problem was that hardens the metal in the engine. If the engine can't be rebuilt, it's no good. You throw the engine out, put a new engine in. And if you're putting water in the engine cylinder, you're going to create more heat and harden the metal. So you cannot use water. I can't go much beyond that right now on that statement on the water. But no, it does not harm the engine. We have had recently a gentleman with the Racing Association with Porsches. He was telling us that one of his test runs, he was only getting 180 octane out of a slight modification.
Okay. So
using his normal fuel.
Using his normal fuel. So it didn't have any kind of, it didn't seem to have an adverse effect upon the performance of that kind of vehicle then? No. It actually does increase your horsepower. So it's actually beneficial. Yeah. I'm sure he'll be very happy to know this. And you're probably going to get a customer soon. How many students do you get a year? Or do you do courses monthly, weekly, semi-annually? I mean, how often do you teach?
About one class a month.
One class a month, okay. And you said that you have students from all over the country and the world?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're planning a class here in about a month and a half just for India. And we're going to only be inviting people in from India. We anticipate about 25 students for that class. And I'll be bringing a gentleman in to do some translating because I don't speak all the different languages.
Yes.
But I can draw pictures.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Now, looking at the state of affairs that we're in the world, the goings-on over in the Middle East, what do you think the future holds as far as GEET International and your technology? Do you think that out of practical necessity, people are going to start to look to this kind of technology just because the price of fuel has already started to go up and will continue to?
People who are really not going with the flow, that aren't the sheeple, they're the ones that are coming here. The ones that are just going with the flow, no, they won't even think about coming here until gas hits $8 or $9 or $10 a gallon. Then they're going to go, well, where's that guy at? And I hope by then my doors are closed, because at that point I'm not going to want that many people scratching at my door.
Yes, I understand. Well, listen, we've been talking for a half an hour. You want to take a couple-minute break, or do you want to keep going?
Oh, that's fine. A couple-minute break would be fine.
Okay, you want to take 5 minutes, and we'll be back, okay?
You got it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, sir. Okay, folks, we're back. You're listening to TNS Radio, Seeking Solutions. I'm Live Mike, and I'm joined by an extraordinary person, an American inventor. In case you're just joining us, Paul Pantone is here, American inventor for over 20 years, inventor of the GEET fuel processor, an onboard compact plasma fuel refinery that renders just about any liquid into unstable and highly volatile fuel by cultivating electromagnetic and other energy fields. And this process is not only good for the environment and for us, it's also good for the engine. Welcome back.
You make that sound real complex, and we need to really clear this up. We have 10 and 12-year-old kids that have built these for school projects.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. Won first prize in science fairs in California, in Europe, in Canada. We got a picture of a little girl, 8 years old, shredding her first pipe. Because her dad made her and her sisters do every single part of it all by themselves as a home school project. So they wanted to see an engine running on pickle juice. But you don't need to be a mechanic.
That's amazing. Now, is it difficult to retrofit it to any engine? I mean, how difficult is the linkage? Obviously, we'd have to go to school to find these things out, but from what you're describing, it doesn't sound like it's all that difficult.
Well, you can make it complex, or you can keep it simple. What we teach in the school is how to make it simple and how to make it out of just pipe you buy at a hardware store. A lot of the engineers that have come through here, though, they want to make it prettier and really nice, and they'll go spend $10,000-$20,000 on something they could have done for $200.
Okay, of all of the inventions, would you say that this holds the greatest benefits to mankind?
That'd be a toss-up. I've got two others that I think would be equal.
Have you released them yet, or you're withholding them?
No, I'm not releasing them.
Okay. Now, have you gone to the automobile industry and said, hey, I have an idea here. Have you ever considered this?
Yes, I have. And I've had them say, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you.
Why is this?
Well, I'd have to say it's the oil companies telling the politicians what to do and when to do it and how to do it. Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. I agree with you. I'm of the same mind. I think that the elites have that kind of pull over the corporations and the power centers in our country that, control education, entertainment, politics. Your invention would start to chip away and erode that power that they presently hold. And they don't want anyone challenging that control. And I think that's essentially what you're looking at here. This, Paul, your invention is so outstanding and so excellent that they're terrified of it. I've been asked by people when I talked about you, and I said, well, why isn't the media talking about this great invention? Why aren't they spreading this around? Why aren't they sharing this with the world? A fuel processor that would make engines twice as efficient or 50% more efficient. Why aren't they doing this?
Well, let's go back to 1985 on that one. First time I was on TV, KCRA News in Sacramento, California. We got on the news. It was great. The next day I called the same reporter back up and said, if you think the story last night was good, I got a story for you. I've had over 100 death threats in one day. And he said, sir, you don't understand. I didn't realize what I was up against when I put you on the news last night. But if I ever cover you again, I will never be in the broadcasting industry. I didn't realize that the government controls what we're allowed to say on TV. So even if you could walk on water, you'll never be on TV again.
I there was, in my travels, I've had the pleasure of dealing with a 30-odd year retired member of the NSA, and we talked about the media on one occasion, and he shared something with me. He said this. He said, the information that you receive via mass media is the information that they want you to receive. So, obviously, they don't want people to know about you, and they've successfully tried to squelch your voice wherever they could. How often, there was a link that you sent me once before that dealt with a science fair or a science expo, and you were among the featured guests, but you never got an invitation. What do you think that was all about?
There's a lot of people who do that. That was the Barcelona Coffee Conference. They claimed I was going to be at that conference so that they could draw an audience. A lot of people showed up there wanting to meet me in Europe, and I wasn't there because I was never invited.
I would have charged them, send them a bill.
A lot of people have said, hey, Paul's going to be here this weekend. Why don't you come on down? If it draws a crowd and it helps them sell tickets, they do it.
I don't know why. Well, I do know why people would do that for their own personal gain, but it does you a disservice, and it does your efforts a disservice. And you know, I'm going to do everything I can on my radio program to you know, promote your company, GEETinternational.com, and your ideals, and hopefully you'll have some people come to your classes and hopefully purchase your equipment. That's, you know, my personal goal with you, because I believe in you. I believe in what you've done. I think what you've done is next to miraculous. And
my favorite is, I'm a normal guy just like you. I put my pants on one leg at a time, and people from all over the world will dial my number up. And when I answer the phone, it's like, is that really Paul Pantone? Is it really you? Yeah.
Yeah, that was my reaction as well. I was like, holy cow, I'm talking to him. This is amazing.
Yeah. The buck stops here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an awesome thing that you have that kind of way with you, Paul. Well, listen, I've been on for 40 minutes here. Is there any other final thoughts that you want to have? I'd love to have you on again. I know that off the air we discussed you coming on it to discuss your equipment and discuss your thoughts about any subject. I mean, in the future, I'd love to talk to you about such subjects as Monsanto and GMO seeds and chemtrails and the like. I'd love to discuss these and other subjects with you. Okay?
We got to skinny on all of them, so not a problem. A few years back, the Greenpeace Sphere Club, they were all raising heck about a company in Utah called MagCorp, Magnesium Corporation of America. They put 3,000 gallons a day of battery acid into the air, and the people in Salt Lake City get to breathe it. And I was the only person that showed up in federal court to oppose them. All these other clubs all backed off. They only pretended they were doing something to get public attention and donations. Well, I showed up saying, here, we can take the battery they're putting into the air and run the engine on it. And they said, we're really not interested. And since you're not a PhD, we're not going to take anything you just said in the record, so you can leave.
So having that worthless piece of paper that says you earned a degree,
reality, yeah,
is worth more than sound and prudent reason.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Oh boy. You know, when you hear stories like this, Paul, it really does tempt one to fall into despair. How do you remain such a joy-filled, hope-filled person about the future, considering the kind of corruption that you yourself have personally come in contact with? How do you stay so joy-filled and happy and hopeful?
Well, I know there's people out there that do want to learn, and they would like to be able to pass this on to their kids and their grandkids. And they would like to be energy efficient. They'd like to know how to heat their home for $30 a month. They'd like to be able to do other things that they can't do if they follow the sheet. So those are the people that get a hold of me. They come in, we meet, and I know there's going to be another class on the 4th of next month, and another class on the 4th of the next month, or whatever day that's going to be. And I know people are going to keep coming. But only those that really believe in what they want. They're tired of listening to what's on TV. They're tired of listening to the lies about, oh, we're going to do this and this and this. I could put more people to work in 1 year if they just take GEET and put it on every single car in the country than the president can by rebuilding all the bridges. And this would give people independence and freedom. Rebuilding the bridges won't.
Here, Mr. Pantone. You are a man who has a solution, and TNS Radio is about solutions. And I encourage everyone listening in the sound of my voice to pick up the phone and contact Mr. Paul Pantone via email or on the phone and schedule a time to take his class. And
well, I don't mind you giving my phone number out even right now, but keep in mind I'm in class until Saturday, so don't call me until after Saturday. After Saturday, the phone number is 580-251-0651. Yes, 580-251-0651. But don't call me until after Saturday, please.
Okay, and if you can't reach Mr. Pantone that way, may I give out your Yahoo email account? Okay, that's Paul Pantone, Paul Pantone, Pantone @yahoo.com, and that's Paul Pantone at GEET International, P.O. Box 1842, Duncan, Oklahoma 73534. That address again, Mr. Paul Pantone, GEET International, P.O. Box 1842, Duncan, Duncan, Oklahoma 73534. Mr. Pantone, it has been an honor and a privilege to speak with you. Thank you ever so much for being here, and I look forward to speaking with you again, okay, sir?
You got it.
All right, God bless you. Listen, keep up the good work.
Okay, God bless. Okay, bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.
Listening to Philosophy Think Tank, hosted on CapricornRadio.com.
always underdog.